All right, well, good morning. Man, we're so glad you guys are here. We're kicking off a brand new series. I don't know how many of you have been paying attention. We've been going through the book of Luke since November. So we're in Luke chapter 8, and we've been kind of breaking up into series. But this week, or this next 4 weeks, will be No Fear. And you notice the K-N-O. And what we want to talk about is if we know the right fear, and if we're in awe and we're astonished by the right things, where what we are created to be kind of overwhelmed and amazed and astonished by, then it actually eliminates some of the lesser fears that we chase. And that's obviously the story today. We're going to talk about how to flip your fear. But before we do that, I'm just going to play a little quick game because we know we have kids involved and stuff, so we try to keep them a little more engaged. But before we do that, I have a question. How many of you, by a quick show of hands, would say, when you were a kid, you were scared to death of storms? Okay, love it. I love this guy. I could tell he was in. He was ready. He's like, I have storms. Okay, now it's a little more embarrassing. How many of you would say, you know what, now I'm 40, or I'm 50, or I'm 30, and I'm still scared to death of storms as I've gotten older? Anybody? Nobody? Thank you, Becky. Yeah, thanks. You're the one who will actually confess that. So since obviously you saw the story, and we're going to come back to this in Luke 8, verses 22 through 25, and I want to talk about how do we flip our fear. But before we do that, just a real quick game. I want you to participate. Those of you who are watching online, man, we are so glad you're with us. You participate too. You write in the comments kind of what's going on. But I'm just going to play. I'm going to give you 4 weather terms. And in each of these 4 terms, you're just going to scream, is it real or fake? Okay, the term is either a real weather term or it's a fake weather term. Okay, and hopefully we're ready for this. Okay, so the first one, here it is, bomb cyclone. On the count of 3, you're going to say real or fake. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Real. Man, that was kind of a unanimous, overwhelming real. Well, guess what? You are correct, sir. Good job. Yes. So that's pretty good. Now we're going to think a little bit more about this, and this is a harder one. Sharknado. Online, fake, real. Okay, well, let me show you a picture I found in Kansas. So, looks like the joke's on you. All right, how about this one? Firenado. Wait. Oh, don't just follow the real. I'm going to say it first and do it. No, just kidding. Okay, ready? Online, be thinking about this for a second. Is a firenado, is that a real or fake thing? Everybody think they have their answer? Trust me, we have 2 more. I know some of you are like, I did not wake up for this. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, because you thought he won't give 2 fakes in a row, will he? Okay, fair enough. Last one, real quick. Haboob. Or aboob. Hey boob. I don't know. So you guys thinking about this? Got it in your mind? This is the last one, so I want you all to participate. Everybody ready? Count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Guess what? That is real. I don't know what it is. I've never been caught in one, I don't think. I don't know if I want to be or not. But that is actually a real thing. You can look it up when you get back. So obviously we're talking about storms. I found this interesting. I actually found out that the meteorologists, and obviously you saw from the video, Luke 8, the disciples, followers of Jesus get caught in a storm. But what's been interesting to me, I found out in 1954, meteorologists came together and said, we're going to start naming big storms. Now, I'm going to tell you how smart meteorologists were in 1954. You know what they named them after? It was a general rule for 20 years. They always named the storms after girlfriends or wives. Okay? Why? And you guys say it with me. Why? Because guys are dumb, right? Guys have always been dumb. Actually, fun fact, wasn't until 1979 that they actually said, you know what, we're going to actually name some storms guy names. Right? But before that, it was literally all women. And you guys know this now because if I say Hurricane Katrina, we all know what that means, right? So it's kind of a good system. Well, obviously, as we talk about storms today, very quickly, I want to give you some thoughts about storms. And I want to challenge you because I think for a lot of us, we know we're living, and you've heard it so many times, I'm tired of hearing it myself, but unprecedented times, right? We're living in times of unknown, and there's a global pandemic. There is social and racial unrest. You know, there's this economic kind of collapse, or we're fearing it could happen, a recession. And all this luckily happened for us during an election year, right? So can anyone else say, that's a lot of things happening. So it is kind of a crazy time. We understand that. But we have storms. Jesus said, he didn't say when a storm came. He said, or if a storm. He said when the storm comes. So I want to give you just 3 kind of challenges with storms. And maybe you disagree with me, and that's okay. I'd love to sit down with you sometime. We can talk about this. But the first is this, as we look at verse 22, and that is God allows storms. Now, why would I say that? Why would I say that God allows storms? Well, one, I think this verse here in a second kind of alludes to that. But more than that, I think for us, if we truly believe, okay, as a follower of Jesus, as a Christian, what we would call in our culture, if we truly believe that, then we would say that God is sovereign. Now, that's a big word, but what does that really mean? That means we would say God is completely all-knowing. He's all-powerful. He's completely in control. Nothing happens without literally his authority. So that tells me if I'm in a bad way, well, then I'm not, you get into, well, does God punish me? I'm not saying any of that. But if anything happens in our lives or our world, God does allow it. The Bible tells us in Romans that God is the master of taking bad things and turning them for good. Maybe not even my good, which I don't like sometimes, but at least for his good and his glory. That's how God works. God is completely in control. So if you're in a storm, I think we first have to acknowledge that God allows it. But let me call time out. Because in the church world, I didn't grow up in church, but I learned this from church people. They say phrases like this all the time. Well, brother, the devil's after me. He's getting me good. And I'm not saying that's not true, but then you push it a little further and they're like, well, you know what? I'm about to lose my job. Oh, yeah, that is tough. Why? Well, I've been late 3 weeks in a row every day. Like, well, that maybe isn't the devil. That might be an alarm clock issue, right? So we make some bonehead moves in our life and we try to blame it on some spiritual things. And I think sometimes God's like, yeah, that's on you, bro, right? But let's be honest, there are other times that's not the case. For example, look at verse 22. It says, one day Jesus said to his disciples, let us go over to the other side of the lake. So they got into a boat and they set out. Now you saw from the video, this huge storm comes. I want you to notice something in that verse. This is really important. Jesus said to his disciples, let's go over to the other side. So Jesus initiated this. You got to understand me this morning. This is so important. You can follow Jesus, and because you're following Jesus, still be in a storm. That actually might be the cause of the storm. Okay? God never said, no, you're not going to have storms in life. That's the guarantee. So it's crazy to me. They're in a storm because they're following Jesus. And they're going to get real scared here in a second. So before we kind of get to these 3 or 4 verses, I want you to just pause for a second and think about this. What do you fear? What do you honestly fear right now? Is it your health? Is it a pandemic? Is it other side issues? Is it a job-related issue? I'm not going to lie, you guys. I'm 41, I think, or 40. I'm one of the two. 41 years old. And you know what I'm scared of? I've got 2 teenagers who have phones and the internet. That scares me, right? I'm just putting it out there. I have a daughter now who's going to be a sophomore in high school. And now, boys start liking girls. And I don't like any of that. I'm scared of that. I don't want to murder someone, especially a 16-year-old boy, but I'm probably going to, right? Those are struggles that we all have. What do you honestly fear? I was talking to a lady like 2 weeks ago. And she just unraveled. She said her son, now just follow this story. This is where we're at right now. A lot of us, I think. Her son is in 1st grade. And she said, please pray for me. I don't know if we should send him to school. I don't know if he should do online. I don't know. But I think we're going to go online because honestly, I think in 2 weeks, everybody's going to be online. Fair enough. I'm listening. Okay, I'll take that. That's probably reasonable. She said, but I'm scared. Okay. Why are you scared? Because now I'm scared to death if he goes virtual and I'm teaching him, he won't learn the right stuff, and then he's going to be behind, and the next thing you know, he's going to take his ACT, and that score's not going to be good. He's not going to get into a good college. He's probably going to start gangbanging. Next thing I know, he's in prison at 32, and I don't have grandchildren. She literally went there. And I went, time out. Dude's in 1st grade, right? Let's not let this thing ravel out of control for us. But I think it does, right? So I want you to hear this. Fearing things will always grow your fear. But fearing God shrinks them. I didn't say it takes them away, but fearing God gives me a perspective that's bigger than my circumstance. It's the reason Paul could say, I have amazing joy. Yeah, on the beach? No, in prison. Awaiting my possible death, but I have great joy right now. Well, you shouldn't, but I do. Because he literally saw past the moment. He knew there's something bigger. God's in control. I'm trusting him, whether he does what I want or not. So God allows the storm, but here's the good news of that. God is present in your storm. He's present. And here's what's interesting to me. Verse 23 says, as they sailed, he fell asleep, Jesus. A squall came down on the lake so that the boat was being swamped, and they were in great danger. So this was all very serious. They really might die from this. So, this isn't a light situation. It says the disciples went and woke him. So he was woke, bad joke, saying, Master, Master, we're going to drown. Now here, let me tell you why this verse is so powerful for me personally. Don't ever let the presence of a storm cause you to doubt the presence of God. Okay? You need to hear that. Don't ever let the presence of any storm cause you to doubt the presence of God. But let's be honest, and I think this is why this verse is so powerful to me. Why do we actually doubt? Why do we doubt God's presence or we struggle in our dark moments? I think it's exactly like the disciples here. I don't think if you push them, they knew Jesus was with them. He's in the boat. He's asleep. It's not that Jesus isn't with me. I don't struggle with that. At a foundational level, I know Jesus is with me. He's for me. He's inside of me. I get that. But if I'm honest, sometimes I feel like he's sleeping, or he doesn't care, or he's not answering me. You see, that's what the disciples felt here. They're like, it's not that we're not saying you're with us. We're wondering, why are you not doing something about this? That's when our faith and life collide so many times. It's like, God, I believe you're able, but if you're not going to do it, man, I have problems with that. And we have to look past that. And I love it so much because they're like, Jesus, don't you care? Some of you have been in such a broken spot in your life where you literally prayed and just said, Jesus, I believe you. I'm trusting you. I'm hurting. I'm struggling. But God, I need to know, don't you care? Because I'm drowning. I'm hurting. I'm treading water here. Here's what I love, though. I've learned in my life that if there's a tight situation and people are kind of freaking out, the only people that aren't nervous are the ones that know something I don't know. Give you an example of that. Have you ever watched a game, like a big game, and it's recorded, but you watch it with someone who is catching up with it? I've done it a few times, and here's what I love, and here's what you notice. I remember one of my favorite teams a couple years back was playing in a game, and I had to be somewhere, so I came back, and a friend of mine was there, and they're like, well, I'll watch it with you. So we start watching this game, okay? And it literally went into overtime. Big game. And I learned a very valuable lesson there. I noticed this. While I'm watching the game, I could watch him. And when I should be like, oh, it's 4th and 7. What are they going to do? Oh, I'm freaking out. They're not going to convert. And you know what he is? It's fine. So I know if he likes the same team and he's not nervous, he knows something I don't. You know why Jesus wasn't freaking out? Because he knew something they didn't. And that was that I'm in control of all this. So I believe God allows storms. I believe God is present with even when it doesn't feel like it or doesn't seem like he's responding in our storms. And then the last one real quick, God uses your storms. And he uses my storms. There's a purpose in this. Notice what it says. It says, he got up and rebuked the wind and the raging waters. The storm subsided and all was calm. Verse 25, where's your faith, he asked his disciples, in fear and amazement. Is that up there? Good. I have that underlined in my Bible, in fear and amazement. I want to come back to that. Keep that up there. This is very important. In fear and amazement, they asked one another, who is this? He commands even the winds and the water, and they obey him. So if you go back to the verse before this, you don't have to, but the verse before it says they're freaking out and they're scared because of the storm, and they think they're going to die. Fair enough. But I love that literally in one verse, it flips. Their fear flips. Now they're still fearful, but what are they fearful of? They're fearful of, who is this man? We just realized we're not dealing with any ordinary man. We're dealing with the Messiah. We're dealing with the Son of God, someone who literally has authority over all of nature, all things. You know what I think the game changer is this morning for you guys? And I think this is so important. Whatever you fear this morning still obeys Jesus. Do you know that? I don't care how serious the sickness is. I don't care how bad the financials. I don't care any of that. Everything you do and fear is under the authority of who Jesus is. And I think in that moment, they were like, imagine if they truly understood who Jesus was. You know what they would have done? They would have done what I would have done after knowing the story. In the moment, I would have been right with them. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? What Jesus, I thought we were friends. Freaking out, right? I would have been like losing my mind about that. But you know what's crazy to me? If you knew what was going on, you know what would have happened? They literally would have been like, Jesus, care if I cuddle with you? Right? You would have been so cool in that moment because he's bigger than all of these things. You've got to learn to flip your fear. Would you hear this? Peace is not the absence of a storm. Peace is found in the presence of Jesus. So there might be a storm raging all around you in your life. And Jesus maybe won't even calm the storm around you, but I can promise you this, he can calm the storm in your soul because he has that power. Now, this morning, I want to kind of share with you a quick story. My 2 kids are up front here. I'll call them out, and they're with Tyler and Sarah, who were at my house last night. So I asked them, I said, hey, I'm closing out this message on flipping your fear, and I want you guys to give me a suggestion. Like, give me an example of when you flip something and it makes it better. And my daughter Tegan said, reverse Uno. And I was like, that's a dumb idea. I don't even know what you're talking about, right? So she got axed real quick. And then Sarah, her friend, was like, you know, she's going to be a senior, pretty smart. She's thinking, and she was like, I think she mentioned pancakes maybe. So she's fired. Like, none of these kids helped me. They were awful last night, so thank you for nothing, right? But here's what hit me, and I was thinking about this. I was thinking, what's really a good example? You know, those of you who don't know us, my wife and I, we love the Lawrence County Fair. We love it, okay? We love the fair. It's where we met. We're all about it. We were driving to a volleyball game yesterday, and my wife says, we're in Proctor, Vegas. She said, could we actually stop maybe? Could we stop and like get a picture at the fair? Are you really kidding? Are you kidding me? But I literally took shots. I wish I could put it on the screen. I'm taking like glamour shots like Ola Mills of my wife in front of the fairgrounds. But anyways, I was thinking when I was 12 or 13 years old, and I'm closing with this. I was 12 or 13 years old. We stayed at the fair every year. We had animals. We were in the campground. And I remember it was Saturday, the big night when everybody's there, the derby's there, there's people everywhere. If you're a single guy, that's your chance to finally land a babe. I'm excited to go to the Midway. And parents come in the campground and they're all frantic. And they say, listen, there's word that a group of I'm not making this is such a true story. There's roughneck cronies from Huntington. And they were here last night. And I guess they've now threatened they're going to come back and they have guns and they're going to shoot people. And literally, like, adults are telling me, like, you need to stay, it's trouble over there, stay in the campground. So I'm kind of nervous. So I'm sitting over there at a picnic table. Okay, check this out. Picnic table by myself, mad because I can't find me a sweet, derby girl, because they're the fanciest of all of girls. And my older brother, who is I love him to death, but he's just psychotic. He comes by and he's like, why aren't you over there? I'm like, didn't you hear? All the adults said, there's trouble. There's a gang coming with guns. I can't make this up. This is how dumb it is. And my brother says, what? So I repeat it. Dude literally takes off running towards the Midway. This is a true story. About 45 minutes later, I guess he's in a fight with a guy. He must have like gang sonar or something. He found him. He's fighting him. And this is the story. His buddy was with him, who was also a criminal. But his buddy said this. He said they I guess, got into a little beef with these guys. I don't know if it was that group or not. And he said one of the guys lifted up his shirt and had a pistol in his pants. And in that moment, my brother punches him. So he's a moron, right? But you know what changed that day? And this is really true. I remember I sat over there the whole time. I missed out on everything, all the fun. But they come back and cops are involved and all this big deal. And when he come walking back, maybe in handcuffs, I don't remember, it hit me. I was scared to death to go over there. I should be scared about the psychopath in my camper, right? I'm living with more fear. And as silly as that illustration is, it's really true, because I think in that moment the disciples realized, why were we fearing this? Why were we overwhelmed? Why were we consumed with this when we should have been consumed with him? Because he controls it all. You see, if we truly believe that, we don't freak out. We don't lose our mind. We don't go nuts, because we know in those moments, he is bigger. Whatever you fear, whatever's controlling you, obeys Jesus, because he is the ruler of the universe. He's the Son of God. he's the Messiah. So today what we're going to do, we're going to pray. If you would just close your eyes for just a second. And I'd love you to do me a huge favor here for just a moment. So thankful you're here. I pray that God's word, whatever's going on in your life, God can use my weird words, maybe twist them for something beneficial to you today. But here's what my prayer really is. For some of you to be honest. Maybe you're in an unknown time. Maybe you're in a scary time. Maybe you're like the disciples and you've prayed and you don't feel like he's really, I know he's there, Trent, but it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like he's responding. Maybe you're in that moment right now. I'd love you to do something. If you would just a moment, no one's looking around, just lift your hand and say, Trent, could you guys in the church, could you pray for thank you. Thank you. I know people are struggling. I know some of your stories personally right now are so tough. I just want to pray for you. Let's pray together. Father, I pray for a group of people in this room right now who are caught in the storm. I pray for some of us who are not, that we would realize that I think a lot of times in life we're either going through a storm or a storm many times is around the corner. That's just life. And I do feel their pain because, God, you know me personally, kind of embarrassed to even say this, but the last couple weeks I found myself waking up at night, go to the bathroom, 2 a.m., and I can't go back to sleep because my mind is just racing over these things that are consuming me, this fear. I pray for those who raise their hand and maybe those who should have, that we just stop in this moment and realize that you are greater. That it's not that we never have fear. God, I just don't want us to have the wrong fear. And I'm not talking about some fear of God who's always trying to strike us down and hammer us and he can't wait to punish us. That's not the image of God, and I hope no one sees that today. But there is this image of you as our Heavenly Father who is bigger than anything we could imagine. You're literally the ruler of the universe. You can speak things into existence. Why do I fear these things when I'm trusting in you? I know you're in control. It may not work out the way I want. You may not save the day the way I picture it. But I know you're in control. And I know you have a plan for your glory. Help us to trust you. Help us to flip our fear from these ridiculous things to something we should be overwhelmed and consumed and amazed by. And that's you and your Son who gave his life for us. So this morning, I just pray for somebody here who maybe has never taken that step. The challenge for you is going to be this morning to take one more step closer to Jesus. Maybe you don't even believe him or you don't know if you do. But today's the day you say, you know what, I'm going to pursue this. Because if this is true, then it's worth all of us in this room giving our lives towards it. Jesus, I thank you for giving your life on the cross, sacrificing, paying my sin debt so I could have freedom in you. Thank you for sacrificing it all out of your love for me. Thank you for saving me. We ask these things in your name. Amen.